We begin with that breaking news out of Baltimore, Maryland. A ship rammed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge, causing a collapse.
Yeah, officials believe at least 7 vehicles were on the bridge when it came down, and so far, 2 people have been pulled from the water. Fox's Rebecca Castor is live in Baltimore now with the very latest. Rebecca, good morning.
Buck, Sharon, good morning. The focus still at this hour is on the search and rescue. Officials are not able to give an exact number at this point, but like you said, they do believe that there were at least 7 vehicles on the bridge at the time of the collapse, including a vehicle that was at least the size of a tractor trailer. So we know that at about 1:30 a.m. this morning, a container ship struck a support beam. And officials do also say at this hour they don't believe that this was caused intentionally, but the FBI is on scene conducting an investigation per their protocol.
Rebecca, do we know if in the past if there have been any issues with this particular bridge?
There haven't been any reported issues that we've heard of so far. It's been around for just about 50 years, so fairly new when it comes to bridges. So this is also not the only mode of transportation connecting the Baltimore Harbor area. There are 2 other bridges for people to get across. So it sees a good amount of traffic, but it's not overflowed with congestion every day.
Obviously, this happened in the middle of the night hours, so the bridge was not very many cars on the bridge at the time. Can you give us the latest information as far as the search and rescue mission?
So the search and rescue is still underway at this hour, and as they had a lot of difficult conditions that they were working with overnight. So now that the sun is up, that is definitely going to help the efforts here. Last night, water temperature, you're looking at about 50 degrees. So when you think about hypothermia and how long people can last in the hour with those conditions, you're looking at about 1 to 3 hours before you start risking survival.
Now, for people that are not familiar with the Baltimore area, you mentioned there are some other bridges that connect the city, but how important is this bridge as far as the morning and afternoon commutes, and what has this done to traffic in the city?
This is definitely going to throw a wrench in people's morning commute plans, and it's going to cause a major disruption to operations at the Baltimore port. The bridge spanned a long length.
Hey, well, this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. And thank you. I just shared a news clip out of Fox 5 News about the Francis Scott Key Bridge out of Baltimore that just got collapsed due to an cargo ship that ran into it at 1:15 a.m. in the morning. And the latest news coming out of Baltimore concerning the bridge collapsing is divers recovered the bodies of 2 construction workers who died when the massive cargo ship struck and collapsed the Baltimore bridge, as investigators revealed Wednesday that the hazardous material was leaking from the breached containers on the stranded vessels. State and federal lawmakers rush begin and the recovery from the disaster that crippled the port of Baltimore. So they're still doing they're still trying to doing a further investigation on what really happened, how it transpired, what happened. All we know is that the cargo ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. And I want to say condolences to the families of the 2 men that lost their lives, the 2 construction workers that lost their lives, condolences to their families. And RIP to those 2 gentlemen, that construction workers that lost their lives during that disaster. And I always have the question of I'm not questioning the hours, I'm questioning the direction of the ship, the cargo ship. Why was it going towards the pillar that was holding up the bridge? Why didn't the ship go steer further away from the pillar that was holding up the bridge? And according to the sources, 7 people was on the bridge when that. Yeah, 7 people was on the bridge. It's a very scary situation. Imagine being on a bridge. I know probably if that happened to me, I wouldn't go on the bridge again. That's if you survive. And imagine just hearing about it is scary because a lot of us in America, we drive and we do take bridges. When we drive, we take expressways and we take bridges to get to the next point from point A to point Z. And imagine just driving at night and the bridge, and you're on a bridge driving to get to your destination, and it wind up collapsing to the ocean is the most scariest thing to even think about. And that's why it's just they're gonna do a further investigation. According to the sources, they're gonna do a further investigation and find out why did it go in that direction, and how many people they're still doing trying to recover bodies, and they're trying to find out if there are any more casualties, any more people left. So far, they found 2 construction workers, and I'm sure there's more. There's possibly more death because the cars that sunk into the ocean when the cargo ship hit, and they're trying to recover more victims at this point. As time goes on, I'm gonna find out about more what more victims. I'm sure there's more victims than the 2 construction workers, and it's sad, really, really sad. And you know what? According to the sources and what I've read, they said the ship itself, the cargo ship, had mechanical problems. And they knew about the mechanical problems, but they still wanted to get the job done. They knew about the mechanical problems, and they still wanted to get the job done. Now, every time you hear about mechanical problems, you should not take risk. Should not take risk. And you kind of wonder about, is it, you don't know. We don't know. And sometimes I want to put on my conspiracy theory hat on and say that I don't know if it's done. I don't want to say it's done purposely. Could say that. I could say that as conspiracy theorist. I can say that it could be done purposely to stop from one point to the next. Because right now is it can inconvenience a lot of people from getting to certain destinations. So they're trapped in the city. And when you're trapped in the city, and when the certain disasters happen, you're really stuck at that point. You can't go nowhere because the bridges are shut down. Certain things are shut down. Yes. I remember 9/11. I remember that, hearing about that, knowing about that and experiencing it. With the bridge being shut down, yes. In the second Esdras 15 verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and the men shall be afraid. So sometimes you gotta wonder about things. Not everything you see and you hear about is what it is. Sometimes things are done purposely. Sometimes things are done to sabotage certain goals and certain things that people do, that people have. If you want to accomplish a goal and you want to reach a goal, there's certain things that will come in your way to sabotage your goal. Now, I'm not too sure if this was the case here, but sometimes you have to question things when things happen. Now, the question is, why didn't the bridge open? If they knew that the cargo ship was coming, why did they should have put it, okay, no, you cannot enter the bridge because the cargo ships are coming through to do deliveries, so therefore you cannot enter, you cannot open up the bridge. Why was the bridge down and the cargo ship was coming, and they knew that the bridge was down and a cargo ship was coming? It's a lot of questions you have to ask. A lot of questions you have to ask. Why certain things was happening and why things happen. And people, things just don't happen just to happen. There's always, you have to look into things. There's always Things just don't happen. Just don't take everything verbatim. Meaning that just don't take the news just for the news. Not everything that happens is what it is. Not everything that's happened is what it is. Not everything. Accidents just don't happen. Sometimes things are done purposely. Sometimes things are done purposely to stop certain things from happening. Sometimes they want you to be trapped in one place and they don't want you to go to the next destination because you have something to fulfill. Not everything happens. Not everything happens just to happen. That's what I'm trying to get at. Not everything always seems to be what the news or what media portrays it to be. You got to look into certain things and you got to investigate because not everything you hear is what it is. Now, this picture is the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsing while it was destroyed by the cargo ship. Enormous, like a big building sitting on the ocean that crashed into the bridge. And I could imagine the screams. I could imagine the I can't even imagine what those people went through on the bridge. Those 7 people went through on the bridge. Can't even imagine. I can't even imagine it. Can't even imagine it. And let's go to a scripture. James chapter 1 verses 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him. So this is where prayer comes in. If you lack wisdom, you ask God to guide you. You ask God to direct you, and ask God to order your steps. Don't think that we can always go on our own strength. We have to come to the Father for directions. We have to come to the Father for guidance, because everywhere you go is not safe. And that's where I'm coming, that you have to pray. And I encourage you to pray. Develop a practice of prayer. My sisters and brothers out there, we always got to pray, no matter what. We always got to pray, and because the devil is busy, and we always got to pray for God's protection no matter what. Pray for God's protection no matter what. You don't know what's coming your way. You don't know what could be lurking around the corner. My sisters and brothers out there, we always got to pray no matter what. We always, and get into that prayer closet, your quiet moments, because it really matters what you do in your quiet moments. When you develop a connection with God and you develop a conversation with the Lord and you ask him and you seek him for protection over your family, over your friends and your loved ones. Before you pull out that car, you pray. Ask God for protection. Ask God to protect before you pull out that driveway. You pray and you ask God to guide you and keep your hands of protection over you. I always pray that when I get in the car by myself and with my family in the car as well. I always make it a habit of prayer. Pray before you get on that plane. You just 5 minutes. It takes about 5 minutes to pray and say, Lord, I pray that you keep us safe during our traveling. Keep us safe during our traveling. You have to understand how prayer is very important. To pray for God's wisdom and guidance and protection. How so much that's important to do that. Because you never know what's out there. You're on that plane, you pray. Even when you get on the plane, you pray and you ask God for protection. And you also make it a habit to pray. Make it a habit. Get close to God and make it a habit. Make it a habit of prayer. And when you make prayer a habit, that's how you get connected to the Lord. That's how you get close to God. You pray, you read your word, and you make it a habit of prayer. I know when you pray, it saves you from a lot of things that comes your way. And God shows you. Before it happens, he shows you. Why? How I know that? Because I make it a habit of prayer. And I'm encouraging you to make it a habit of prayer. Pray before you make a decision to go anywhere, because you never know. You never know. So I always encourage people to pray no matter what. Make it a habit today. Make it a habit. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can pray. You can pray in the fields. You can pray anywhere. It doesn't matter. You can speak to God anywhere. Some people feel you need to pray to God in the church. Some people feel you need to pray to God when you're with people. No, you can pray to God anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Speak to him like I'm speaking to you. Ask him. God is never too busy for us. Yeah, in the book of Nahum, the live word today is coming out of the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 7. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. My sister and brethren out there, we got to take, when it says take refuge in the Lord, that means we connect with the Lord and we always pray. You see what happened in Baltimore when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed due to the cargo ship hitting it, and it collapsed with 7 people on the bridge at 1:15, I believe, a.m. in the morning. Scary moment. That's why I encourage you to pray. Well, this video is about prayer, and wherever you go, you pray for God's protection. Because that could have been any one of us. We could have been on that bridge, and that cargo ship would have hit, and we could have perished. So I pray, and condolences to the folks who lost loved ones on that disaster, and also RIP to the victims who lost their life. It's scary, scary moment. That's why I'm a big advocate of praying before I drive, praying before I go on that plane, I'm praying before I go on that cruise ship, or I'm praying before I go on a boat, or on the bridge when you're driving. Pray, 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 pray. Why? Because it's important. And when we take God for granted and we don't pray, it's fair game. Jesus protects his own. He protects us. Not to say that bad things don't happen even when you pray. Bad things do happen. But your chances of God protecting you is greater than not praying at all. He will protect you, and he protects his own. Jesus protects his own. But things will happen. But when you pray, God shows you things before they happen. And believe me when I tell you this, God shows you things before it happen, and he reveals things to you. He reveals things to you. Whether you should hang out with a bad company, or whether you should go on a trip and you're not feeling so good to go on this trip. Or maybe you should just stay at home and relax instead of going out, going on that long trip. Sometimes God speaks to us that way. Sometimes we want to go somewhere, we got something to do, but something God tells you, because the only way you would know that if you pray every day consistently and you read his word. You have a personal walk and talk with Jesus. That's the only way you would know that. And he will tell you, say, listen, maybe it's not a good night to go. Maybe go another time. It's not a good night to go. Or go another day. Today is not a good day to go. He speaks to us. So I encourage you to develop a prayer closet, and I encourage you to always pray before you drive. Pray before you travel. You go anywhere. Always pray. But this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. God bless and be safe out there. Peace and blessings. And thanks for tuning in. Until next time.